Good
Oh,
evening,
yes.
my friends. Good
Good
evening,
evening,
my
Rose.
friends. Good
Hmm.
evening, Maxine. Good evening,
Good evening to
Marcia
you.
and Caswell and all the others who are here with us. It is always a pleasure. Now, I have no life now on these evenings that you're on, and I'm learning so much. Your presentation, as always, Maxine, informative, um, educational. And as I was listening to you, I remember, Maxine, when we, in the early days of gender studies, when it was new, when we would sit and try to understand it ourselves, and then we package it so that others would understand without making it so difficult to follow and so gray, putting it in a gray area, but making it accessible to all. And this is what is troubling me as I review education, how it is not clear anymore. Um, Things are so hidden or so contrived here in this country when it comes to information sharing and when it comes to treating our people as people who are intelligent, people who are informed, people who are educated. And so, as I look, and I want to say good evening to all the others who are here with us online. Thank you for being with us. And as I attempt to review um, the year in education, I have come up with a report that leaves me not a very happy person. And I have taken on the role this evening as a parent receiving a report card from my child in whom I have made an investment in his education or her education. And I've made sacrifices. I have borrowed. So we are doing that analogy as how you would have responded to your child who brings home a report to you, like the one I am going to summarize and give to you in terms of the performance of the education over the last months, over the last year. And I want to start out with, um, I don't know if Marcia still have that slide that young man, Mr. Gittins, presented. He was excellent. And I'm wondering if you could locate for us, if you still have it, that bit on education.
Yes,
What
we
he
will work on that while we work and get it up for you. So you
Yes,
can keep
what
going.
he has said about education because it's coming from the future. And it is so interesting to see what he says about education reflects what I think and see education as. So here we go. And I want, as usual, to have my listeners participate. So get your pens and paper for me and write these grades, starting with excellent and outstanding. Excellent and outstanding. very satisfactory.
Okay, so we're to have excellent on one, and then we have very satisfactory.
So we have excellent slash outstanding.
Okay.
Then we have very satisfactory,
Uh-huh.
fairly satisfactory,
Fairly satisfactory. That is third one. Yeah.
yes, and satisfactory.
Satisfactory. Okay.
The next one is needs improvement,
Needs improvement. Yes.
and the last one is poor slash not acceptable.
Poor
Poor
slash.
slash not acceptable. So
Yes.
you'll be grading with me so that I do not come across as being biased.
Mm-hmm.
And we would invite those in the chat to grade the performance as a parent receiving that report card. And so we are looking at education. I want to start with praise. I want to praise the teachers in our public primary, secondary schools who worked assiduously, demonstrating great perseverance and dedication to the students of our nation, many times under conditions not amenable and suitable for delivery of teaching and instruction. You, if they're teachers here, and they have earned and deserved the holiday break. And I am telling you to rest up and return to the classroom and your charges energized with renewed commitment and dedication. Best wishes to you for the new year. I can't leave out the ancillary and support staff, the school meals workers, and others who also would have worked under similar strenuous conditions. On behalf of the Marcia Week Show, we want to say thank you. Now, I did say you worked under some conditions not amenable and suitable for teaching. And what were some of the strenuous conditions under which our teachers and others would have worked in the public primary and secondary school settings on a daily basis? And I think of the environmental plant issues that would have plagued many schools, some in the public that were brought to the public interest, and others because of, and Mr. Barber can speak to this, because of fear of being victimized or being scolded, because we realize we're in a system now where um, people are scolded for speaking out and are seen as weaponizing the system if they speak out. So we are going to speak to those few who would have spoken out on the conditions under which they taught our nation's children. And I believe that this is reflective of others that we may not have heard about. I start with St. Stephen's Nursery School that was reported in May to having to bear with unbearable stench. And I read in the press that the stench was like a combination of animal as well as human feces. Someone said lack of adequate furniture, etc. And that is St. Stephen's Nursery, whereafter putting up with it for some time, it was the union stepped in and attempts were made to address. I don't know if fully resolved. The Lesterbourne Secondary School, you may recall, they too had environmental issues which brought on dizziness, respiratory issues, etc. We go on now to Alexandra School, flooding. Now this has been going on. It the beginning of September. Remember when there was the flooding? It was said that you almost needed um, boats and vessels to get you out of the school. That's Alexandra. We looked at Luther Thorn. That was very much in the press this term, in the public domain, where they had mice and bird droppings, mold in classrooms, structural issues which led to children being ill, developing fever, conjunctivitis, that's red eye, diarrhea, vomiting, wheezing. And it is only when the PTA and the parents complained, along with the teachers, to the media, the parents and the PTA brought it to the media in support of the teachers' complaints about the what was happening, and the parents and PTA particularly complained about the disappointment with the Ministry of Education for poor communication. Then we looked at St. Paul's, which had rodent droppings and dead rodents at the premises. And we know about the ongoing Lawrence T. Gay environmental issues that we were told have been resolved, but then they come back. What is happening there? These are the conditions under which our nation's children have been attending school. Then we come on to St. John Primary, the latest, and how the announcement and the closure and transfers were handled. First, the environmental issues, how were they handled? And the subsequent closure and transfers, how these were handled. If I am correct in recalling, we heard from BUT, we heard from the MP Charles Griffith, the MP for St. John, in which the school is located, but he's not the Minister of Education. He spoke about the issues and the need to close the school given the environmental issues, the PTA on the closure. On occasion, we heard from the Deputy Chief, Joy Adamson, who spoke of the options um, for transfer in St. Philip and St. John, eventually looking at students will be going to Mount Tabor. First, they facilitated the interim classrooms at Messiah's house, the church, the Wesleyan church, and then they looked at more permanent transfer when it was said the school would be closed indefinitely. And Miss Adams, the deputy chief, spoke with the parents and the public on the transfer, where they be going. but we are still awaiting communication on this important matter from Minister K. McConney and Chief Education Officer Dr. Ramona Arsha Bradshaw. I was troubled by the suddenness of the news to the students and their emotional, the expected emotional response from them, the crying, uh, the fact that they will be separating without preparation. Many of them will be going to different places. Teachers themselves being separated, the uncertainty of what will be happening to them, having to leave friends and now making new friends at another school. And they would have gone through the trauma of home, remote learning with COVID, and now settling into an environment that was not conducive and that was causing them to be sick and now to be sent to transferred with, at such short notice. The fact that that school existed for 100 years, according to my research in the community, and so it would be affecting not only the teachers and the staff, but the vendors, the neighbors, generations who would have attended that school. And I am wondering, as a cross cultural trainer, the kind of preparation, pardon me, that would have been made for those children to transition into a new environment. I was very troubled by the crying and the weeping by the students as well as parents. I may be biased here, but I gave, not biased, I'm not biased, I'm giving that a failing grade. Unacceptable. That is unacceptable. That is poor. The handling of that situation at St. John Primary. Coming on, and may I comment here, there is a minister of education, there is a chief education officer, both of whom I believe in situations like this should be the ones in the forefront addressing this matter, not a PR communications consultant. I am tired of all this PR bluff that is going on and the PR narrative. It is not the role, neither the responsibility of a PR consultant to speak to these matters, given a press release. It is unacceptable. Poor grade. That is the bottom of the scale grade. Poor, unacceptable. Not even, as far as I know, the Government Information Service, a public service with paid persons to disseminate information of national importance. No, I have here written in my note. This is a no, no, no coming from me towards the Ministry of Education. And I hope going forward we would have less of this PR communication consultancy and we would have responses from those who have been appointed by the electorate to represent the interests of our schools and our children, as well as the chief education officer who is responsible for administering the education that is being offered. I had to pause to speak on that one. That is a no, no for me, and I believe for others. So we have looked at the environmental issues that have been plaguing our schools consistently and over the last term in particular that we have just completed. Moving on that, I was looking also at the handling and transferring or reallocation. You told me grade awarded not acceptable on the environmental issues, and there are more. But in the interest of time, we move on. My next uh, area that I'm looking at in this report card, someone said absolutely unacceptable. I'm looking at the handling or transferring of teachers and principals at the beginning of the new school year in September, where Mr. Franklin could speak to, has spoken many times when they give that close to midnight call to teachers and principals, particularly that they would be transferred at that short notice to schools that there were to schools that they had not prepared for or were prepared for. Many of these principals, in particular, had already done their planning for the school year and had put systems in place, and it was so insensitive and unprofessional of the Ministry of Education and whomever handles that uh, transfer or letting teachers know that they where they be assigned at that short notice, particularly principals. I have heard that there was some these transfers had some political underpinnings because um, these some of these principles were not towing the line um, as far as partisan politics. They were not towing the line where um, there was a strong um, political representation on school boards, and therefore, when the principal would say, here is where the line is drawn, I manage the school, you manage the board, that this triggered transfers of this nature. And for some, it was seen as a punishment. This is a no no. You cannot have that kind of interference and have our administrators on the school plan, teachers, principals, senior teachers, afraid um, to conduct their work because of the whip coming down on them and being punished or transferred to schools where it says send them over there. Again, it's sending a message to that some schools are the punishment schools, some schools are the doors or the schools like government industrial schools where you get sent off to if you are not towing the line. And I agree with you, the handling of staff transfers, grade given, poor, unacceptable. And I thank Mr. Franklin for speaking out even before the other union responsible for education, like the BSTU, I think that's it, and the BUT, before they spoke out on behalf of, they spoke out after the fact, we could say, We're seeing here such action was utterly ridiculous, totally unacceptable. Transfer of principals and teachers, grade awarded poor and unacceptable. Um, I will pause here to laud and give kudos to those persons who had to experience and endure this kind of unprofessional treatment by the Ministry of Education. I say thank you for responding as you did, given how they treated you. And one of these persons, I want to take time out. She doesn't know that I'm doing this, but she's the former acting principal of the Ellerslie School, who was sent to the Alene School, and who is now on pre retirement leave. A loss to the system, in my opinion, and that opinion of others with whom I would have spoken, who recognize and appreciate professionalism, the kind of professionalism she demonstrated. I want to say publicly, thanks. If the ministry does not say, I want to say on behalf of the parents and the children whom you would have assisted in your capacity as teacher at the St. Michael's School, head of department. These are good people whom the system has lost because of bad treatment. I am putting myself out there to say it. And I want to say thank you, Mrs. Austin, for your work at St. Michael's School. Thank you for your work as deputy principal at the law school, then as acting principal at the Ellerslie School, and in that last term of your tenure in the profession at the Allen School. And I want to say the same to the others in the service, teachers and principals who have retired this term. And I am hearing that though some of these persons are satisfied personally with what they brought to the system, many are leaving disappointed at at how education has taken a downward slide, and how they themselves have been treated. And I'm saying a poor grade to the Ministry of Education on the handling of the transfers. I want to move on also now to another um, area, outstanding area for me in this report. Just give me a moment to because I am editing on the interest of time. I want to look at the report on the budget for education. I am still searching for that budget for education in the budgetary proposal for 2023, and subsequently the budget for the what we have here, reimagining education in Barbados, a bright future for every child. You may recall that at one of the town hall meetings that I asked the question, what is the budget? Where is the budget? That I was surprised that the Prime Minister at the launch, and you know how we have spoken about the launch, that it was well staged, it was well, the narrative was there, it was glossy, it made well for um, a coffee table magazine. It had all of those features, but what was the substance behind it? And I asked the question at one of the town hall meetings, where is the budget? It's Someone is saying here it's non-existent. And I said it was putting the cart before the horse. We are deemed as weaponizing. We are deemed as pulling down sectors or ministries or work in this country. But we have to ask these questions. And I cannot give a satisfactory grade when you are undertaking something as important as this. And up to today, we do not know what is the budget. Where is it coming from? Is it coming from this recent IMF drawdown? We do not know. I don't know if you're satisfied, but I am not satisfied, and we are. I want to take this time out, however, to extend my appreciation, you know, to Dr. Ida Mae Danny, the director of the reform. I know of her commitment, her passion, her desire, her technical as well as practical skills in education that she would have brought to bear on the I call it concepts. I call it concepts. I do not see it as as they call it proposals. I hope it was still at the proposal. She did say money is not a problem. I heard that. And I asked her, and I want to still ask her, beyond all of the desire to transform education, tell us how it will be funded. Tell us how it would be funded. I if I do see any attempts at explaining this education reform, she would have made greater and clearer efforts to do so than the other key players in this process. We scarcely heard from the Minister of Education on it beyond a nice wrap up rallying speech at the end. And I want to say here my dissatisfaction as a review with how we were invited out to these town hall meetings. And then again, it was highly PR with PR persons directing and guiding and limiting our contributions. For me, that was a no no, a no no. The PR strategy. And I did realize too that there were in the town hall meetings that I would have attended, there was a strong partisan uh, not participation, but a partisan presence that could have, caused you to say, should I speak or shouldn't I speak? Because look who's there, look who's there. But I found that it was very much staged and controlled by those PR persons who acted as moderators at the town hall meeting, thus limiting your person's participation to the times given. All right? And therefore, I'm not satisfied with this. Go back to the drawing board. I know that they were rushing to get it through to cabinet by the end of the year. I would say go back to the drawing board and don't squeeze it in on us as many of the other decisions that have been made, national decisions that were squeezed through unnoticed by us. And then we wake up one morning, if we are aware or alert, or if we have persons like in this forum and other places to say it has happened, go back to the drawing board with this one, please. I find it rather convoluted. I find that there are labyrinths that we have to weave through, a lot of unanswered questions, which the persons who have conceptualized it have difficulty in unraveling and presenting to us in a way that is not only palatable. I don't want something that's palatable. I want something that will work in the interest of our children and our children's future. Now, two other things that I want to speak to is the fiasco of that drill at the Springer Memorial School and the ministry's response again to what happened. I still feel that the response has been unsatisfactory, and the PR press conference that set up the principal as the what we would call you talk about the fall guy. I would say the fall girl set her up, and I felt empathy, some of the greatest empathy for her. And I believe that this picture that was presented to us still needs to be clearer, and we need to have protocols shared with us on how similar exercises would be undertaken. Yes, communications and PR. I don't want no PR. I don't want no public relations. I want communications. Let's take out the PR. That is what is happening with the ministries and this government. Everything is PR and paying PR consultants to do what? Give us hog, watch talk, and narrative. If you are appointed as a minister and you have a permanent secretary, or you have a chief or head of department, let those persons speak. All of these glamour girls and glamour boys that are coming out, speaking on Ministry of Health, speaking on tourism, speaking on. So, what are the technocrats? What are the people who are being paid, the civil servants? Where is Government Information Service? I am tired of PR in the Ministry of Education and in other ministries. Get back to proper communication process with those who are heading these institutions and let them speak to us. Thank you. You're hearing now but where I am at on this one. So we're looking at the poor handling of the drill exercise at the Springer Memorial School. You could tell me, somebody said I can already see this government has failed miserably. You could tell me what grade you would give to that. And we are also looking, there's another note that I made here, the signage also at the IDB signage at St. Philip's Primary School. If someone did not pick it up and circulate it, disseminate it, we would never know what is afoot. Our children are not in a position to come home and tell us about this. To them, it is, and and it goes on. So that is not in their their understanding or comprehension to pick up these things. So we thank that person who made it, put it in the public domain for us to know what's happening there. And I noticed how quickly, I think the Minister of Education was at the school denying that this has really happened. But still, we cannot hear from the Minister of Education about the closure of St. John Primary. That is a no no. Another review, another item on the report card is that um, IDB interview, that IDB survey that was done that traumatized the children and was done without parental uh, knowledge and parental permission and consent. That is unsatisfactory, and I hope it does not reoccur. And I'm telling the audience here to look out for a UNESCO survey on mental health, um, designed to determine the mental health of students. I think between 10, 10 and 19, and it has for me some very uh, disconcerting areas where upfront they're asking the child your gender. Are you male, female, or uh, non-binary? Where they are asking some very um, closed questions on on their perception of mental health, their behaviors, uh, their circumstances, their feelings, their emotions. So keep your ears to the ground and be aware that this not UNESCO, UNICEF questionnaire is out there, survey is out there, and it is online for your children to participate in. And my last question, remember I asked about the uh, budget for the reform. There, I am still awaiting uh, answers. So you know there are some outstanding assignments that have not been attended to, unanswered essays or papers, takeaway papers that I am still waiting to receive. For example, the budget for education, the budget for the reform process, uh, who is XQ Institute and their role, what they're playing, how much money they're giving us, what is their philosophy, who are the partnerships that the ministry, the prime minister talks about all the time that they are engaging to assist with education reform. And if Marcia, you will permit me, which made me smile, um, the visit, the government, the British government, I had it here. Uh, the British government, oh, is doing a major change too in their education system, and they're being knocked. I can't find it. I have too many notes here. But anyhow, that will come up another time. And this outstanding assignment from 2018, you could imagine this, Marcia, an assignment from 2018 that we are still awaiting some answers on. And I quote again, remember, Marcia, I brought this to the attention of this forum when I spoke on education reform, and I said, fix it. When the when the BLP governed, launched its manifesto, 2018 manifesto, building the best Barbados together. They had something called our urgent agenda, mission critical policies and actions. And I'm going to run through it quickly. They talked about in the first 6 months, it was promised, led by Mia Motley as she took the Barbados into that election. It was said our urgent agenda mission critical for the first 6 months, rebuilding our foreign reserves, dealing with debt, bringing tax relief, threats to the financial services sector, helping people to live. Barbados cannot now pay their bills. That's what she was saying at that time, or make ends meet. The BLP believes all Barbadians must be able to support their families and live with dignity. Arrears and refunds. Citizens and companies have severe cash flow challenges, partly because government will not pay what it owes. Protecting people's health. Our sewer systems must work. Getting rid of garbage, putting buses back on the roads, repairing our roads, alleviating water woes, citizen safety and well-being. And the 14, empowering young people. We must and will preserve our future generations and empower them to have the best quality of life in that our country can give them. Our country cannot give them that quality of life if they got to go to school in stench and rodent droppings and schools with an environmental issue. Start where it is necessary. And they said, and this, Marcia and Maxine and Casville, is the assignment that I'm waiting for since 2018, the first 6 months of this government taking up its leadership position in this country. An immediate plan of action to end the current epidemic of violence in schools. How do you grade that? 2018 assignment, 6 months after they came into elections, and elections was in what? May 2018. So Truvia may count to the old people. You know, Maxine, that's how the old people used to count. And as well, Truvia May then June, July, August, September, October, November. November 2018, that assignment was supposed to be submitted. Immediate plan of action.
So they're being quite delinquent, quite delinquent. You know what? I would love for you to send us that list, because I think we need to continue on that list. I believe that I can literally see us creating something from that list. So please ask your husband to
Yes,
take a
we will
picture
do
and
it.
send that to me right away. Mrs. Corbin,
So I've got a few more points quickly,
quickly,
Mark,
1 minute,
from,
1 minute.
from this assignment. Address violence and bullying among school children by placing more guidance counselors and social workers, and starting anger management and conflict resolution classes in schools by 2018, September 2018. And another one, to ensure a reliable and timely school bus service from September 2018. Didn't we see in one of those town hall meetings in St. Thomas and St. Andrew, where parents were complaining about poor school bus service? And we can go through Barbados at any time on the morning and see children standing at the bus stop around 9 o'clock waiting for buses when school is called, and placing safety officers on buses and at places where students and young people congregate in large numbers. Didn't we see where the students from, I think, from that school in St. James, mash up the people but shelter. Where were the safety officers
No safety officers.
in that area? So
Listen.
to my class called Barbados and the Ministry of Education, as your parent, I have the strap. I had the strap butt and the cuckoo stick here to put some lashes on you, but somehow it has been removed. School will restart in January, a couple of days or weeks' time. You will hear bling, 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 the ringing of the bell for school to start, or you will hear the electronic bell, bing, school start. I am not accepting a report like this from you next term. But I want to see these environmental issues, the handling of staff done properly, the environmental issues corrected, the staff transfers and the treating of staff done properly. I want to hear about that you've gone back to the drawing board with education reform. You're going to look at those things that are working and retrofit them and attend to them, and the things that are just narratives, the things that sound sweet and sexy, that you will look at them again and say, in whose interest are these things being done? I would like to have some questions about that budget for education to reform and how it be allocated. This is homework, and I don't want it to stay as long as May 2018 and should have been submitted
Okay.
by September 2018. So 2024, by God's grace, here we come, and we are expecting better for our children who attend our public and private public primary and secondary, as well as nursery schools and tertiary. When
Tertiary.
even look at tertiary BCC or the Polytechnic SJPP, they were closed here towards the end of the term. We're not hearing about these issues. I want
Mhm.
to know where the money and how the money is being spent. And I do not want to hear from any PR communications consultant.